In today's episode of Legit Street Cars, I'm going to show you how to modify your headlights so they look like this. Now you can perform this modification to practically any car in existence, but I'll be using my 2005 E55 AMG station wagon to demonstrate. And if you're wondering why it's missing almost all of its body panels, I'll leave that video linked down below. Painting the inside headlamp housing is rewarding and inexpensive, and if done properly, it can look very factory and correct, as many cars come new with black or body-colored headlamp housings. This can all be done for as little as $20 in material, and I'll be showing you how to ceramic coat the outside lens and the inside trim of the headlights for even better results. If you guys are interested in learning how to ceramic coat every surface of a car in just 4 minutes, I'll leave that easy to follow instructional video link down below in the video description box, and there'll be coupon codes and product links to everything you guys see here today. Okay, the first step in the job is removing the headlamps, so here we go. In some cases, but not all, the front bumper needs to be removed or lowered to remove the headlamp assembly. On the 211 chassis E-Class, you do need to remove the front bumper, and after you've unplugged all the connectors in the back, look for bolts or clips that hold the assembly in place. On this car, it's 2 bolts on top, 1 on the bottom, and then just 1 screw for the washer nozzle, and the light lifts right out. Next, we're building an oven. You're gonna need to heat the housing to remove the lens, and even though you can use the oven in your house, building your own is cheap and easy, and it'll keep your significant other much happier, trust me. I found a box in the alley, traced out a hole, punched that hole out, and installed the end of my heat gun. I stuck a thermometer in the top, and bam, you have a headlamp oven, and you're still married. Before we start baking, you need to disassemble some things on the headlight. Easy to remove rubber parts and caps should be removed, and I like to remove all the bulbs as well, including the headlight bulb. If you have xenon lights, it's easy to remove the igniter or the control modules, and on this car, it's just a few screws. Then remove any clips that hold on the lens, and you're pretty much done. Now, realistically, the entire headlamp assembly is designed to withstand some pretty high temperatures. Think of the Arizona desert in full sunlight, but because it takes a few minutes, remove as much as you can, including the exterior rubber seal around the lens. Okay, now it's oven time. Stick the headlamp in the box, and unless the box is about double this size, use a divider so the direct heat from the heat gun doesn't melt anything. Don't worry, you really have to mess this up to damage the headlight. Just don't point the gun right at it and you're fine. Also, be smart with using a heat gun and a cardboard box. I've done this many times and I never had anything even come close to catching fire, but just don't turn the gun on and leave the room. This is a common practice for heating headlights, and it's safe when used with common sense. I like to keep the temperature right at about 180 to 200 degrees for 15 minutes, and after that, just turn your heat gun off and take it out. Now, gloves are always a good idea, but if you're super tough like me, you can just rip the lens off with your bare hands and call it a day. If you've heated up the factory black butyl sealant enough, they come apart easily, and this is what you're left with. We want to remove the chrome housings, and I started with the larger one. It's held in by sealant, and then just 1 torque screw at the bottom. Don't forget that one. After that's removed, it lifts right out. I don't want to paint this small chrome trim around the top bulb, so I used a pick to push in the tabs, and out she came. The smaller chrome housing requires you to remove 2 torque screws and then gently use a flat blade screwdriver to release the inner clips. With any car, this part of the job requires patience, and be gentle. This plastic can be brittle, so you just don't want to start ripping and tearing. Next, we get straight into paint prep. You want to sand the surface before painting, and many use a 400 to 800 grit sandpaper for this. I like to use a heavy-duty Scotch-Brite pad because it contours the housing better, and you're really able to scuff the entire surface. After a few minutes, your surface will look something like this, and then just wipe it clean with a mix of rubbing alcohol and water to remove any oils. Lay your part down and it's time to prime. Make sure you're using a primer that's specifically made for plastic, and like I said, I'll leave you all the links to everything down below. Your first coat of primer should just be a light dusting, and after a couple of minutes, lay down another coat. It's always best to put down multiple light coats rather than one heavy coat so you don't get any runs, and after you're done, let the primer dry for about an hour or whatever the instructions on the back of the can say to do. We have paint next, and again, make sure this is made to adhere well to plastic. I'm using a gloss black here, but there are many different shades available. This goes on just like the primer in that we're spraying multiple light coats, and I normally do 2 coats of the primer and 3 coats of the color, and on the last coat of color, I get a little bit closer to the housing, but not too close as you don't want to create those runs. And remember, wear a mask. It might smell kind of good, but paint is really nasty. Next, we're spraying the clear coat, and this can be done just a few minutes after your last coat of color, but again, follow the instructions on the can because different paints suggest different drying times. I normally wait roughly 5 minutes after the last coat of color to begin with the clear. Put down a light coat of clear first, and then you can get a little bit closer for what's called your wet coat, and also make sure that your clear coat blocks UV light so your paint doesn't fade over time. After about an hour or so of air drying, I like to bake these at about 150 for 45 minutes in the oven, and then I let them sit overnight before reinstalling them into the headlamp assembly. If you guys have a nice garage floor, definitely cover it better than I did. I'm getting an epoxy coating put on this year, so I really don't care. But here is our project. Let's go over a couple of options. First of all, this is an excellent time to replace your headlamp lenses. Mine are in decent condition, but for this particular car, they're only about $60 new, so I've opted to replace them. If you are going to replace the headlamp lenses, don't forget to transfer any trim from the old one. So in this case, we just have a chrome ring, and it sits in here and it's held in with 2 screws. Very easy to take out. Now, speaking of chrome trim, I've noticed that a lot of factory cars that have painted headlamp housings leave some chrome accents. I think that looks really clean, and generally I'm a fan of chrome accents, so I'm gonna do the same. I'm gonna leave this one chrome, I'm gonna leave this little guy chrome, and we're gonna leave the ring around the projector chrome as well. And speaking of the projector, these can wear out. They'll kind of start to flake on the inside, and it'll drastically reduce your light output. Mine are in excellent condition, so I'm gonna leave them. And then another option at this point, if you have xenon headlights, is to replace the bulbs. These do wear out, so if you have discoloration from side to side, may be a good time to do that. Something else, if you guys don't have a factory projector, if you have a normal halogen bulb with no projector, it's not a good idea to paint this all black because that chrome around that headlamp bulb is actually what projects the light out. In this case, it's all concentrated right there in our little projector bulb, so we don't really have to worry about that. So you can do a retrofit if you have an old school halogen style headlamp with no projector, and those can really improve the lighting output of any car. So anyway, that's where we're at. I'm gonna start putting it all back together, and we're almost done. Oh, and a big warning to you guys, if you're not gonna paint this chrome trim around the projector, be very careful in how you clean it. On some cars, even just simple water on a microfiber will discolor the chrome and remove it in some cases. If you don't believe me, or if you wanna just try cleaning it anyway, just try the very bottom first. So these really shouldn't be dirty at all. I actually just use a dry microfiber just to get the dust off, clean up the projector, and call it a day. Okay, now it's the fun part, and putting everything back together just requires you to work in the reverse order. So reinstall your little chrome ring, and don't forget that one screw that holds the larger housing in. Then the smaller housing just snaps back in, and you reinstall the 2 other screws. I like to ceramic coat everything because it's cheap and easy and adds even more UV protection, and doing this is just a matter of wiping it on, waiting a minute, and then wiping it off. I use Armor Shield 9 by Avalon King, and just watch the 4-minute video linked down below for all the details and a $25 off coupon code. Because we have our Easy Bake Oven, I like to bake these for about an hour at 150 degrees, and this cures the ceramic coating and gets the factory butyl sealant nice and flexible in preparation for our lenses. Now, especially if you're replacing your lenses, you need to add more of this black butyl sealant. It's just a few bucks, and it comes all rolled up and easy to apply. Just push it into the groove of the headlamp assembly and make sure you go all the way around. It's also best to buy 2 of these so you don't run out. With that done, just make sure you've cleaned the inside of the lens really well and push it right back on. You're gonna feel resistance since the new butyl isn't soft yet, but don't worry, we have our super professional Wolf oven waiting. Now use some heavy duty clamps to hold pressure on the lens, and you should have some weird contraption that looks like this when you're done. Stick it in the oven and set it to bake for about 200 degrees for roughly 15 minutes. The clamps are going to do all the work for you and push the lens firmly into the headlight groove as all of the butyl warms up and melts together. You know you're good when your little lens clips fit back nicely, and after you remove it, this will make a water and airtight seal so you don't run into headlight condensation issues later. From here, it's all gravy. I like to buff out the lens, whether they're new or old, and then I apply my ceramic coating. These external rubber seals always look nasty, but here it is after a cleaning and applying the ceramic coating, which does a great job of restoring black plastic. After you've reinstalled your bulbs, covers, and modules, you're ready to reinstall everything back on your car or truck. And here is our final result. So we went from this to this, and I think these headlights look absolutely fantastic. I love the gloss black painted housings, and I'm so glad that I left some of the chrome trim accents alone because I really think that sets it off. This car will have some chrome trim still left on it, like the badges and whatnot. So this kind of just brings it all together. And with the new lenses, everything ceramic coated inside and out, these are crystal clear. So I can't wait to get all of the freshly painted body panels back on the E55 wagon. We're gonna ceramic coat the entire car, paint correction, the whole 9 yards. Next up is cleaning up the engine. So I'm actually gonna remove these before we start spraying a bunch of stuff all over the place. But with a clean engine, all the panels put back on, this thing gleaming in the sun, these are gonna look so good. Take a look at that. They're absolutely perfect. And I'm gonna end this with some sweet pictures of my 2003 E55 AMG. I did the exact same headlight mod to that car, same lenses, same exact process, and that was over 2 years ago, and they still look brand spanking new. So this gives you an idea of what this modification looks like on a completed car. And I think you'll agree with me that it looks pretty good. So I hope this video really helped you out. I hope it gives you the confidence to tackle this job at home. And if you're not replacing your lenses, which is not 100% needed if they're in good condition, expect to only spend about $20 in material. So with that being said, if you enjoyed the video, let me know in the comments section, hit the like button, subscribe, share the video with your friends, and most importantly, have a fantastic day. I'll catch all of you in the next video.